there's a process that I take people to try to really get them to understand their design. And it was a process taught to me by a man I really respect named Art Miller Jr., who helped in the 60s, he and Bernard Haldane helped identify all the people who were applying to work at NASA. 50,000 people applied to work at NASA to work on the space project, and they had to sift through all these resumes to find out who would be successful. And they pioneered a whole new way of looking at how to measure whether somebody would be successful doing a particular thing. And it was by interviewing people on what their successes had been. It didn't have to be successes in business, it just, they asked a question, tell me a story of something you really succeeded at and you really enjoyed doing. Those are the two things. See, the success part is the talent part, and the enjoyment part is your traits part. Those things that just really, it's sort of your innate orientation to life. So I've used this all the time in my work. I have one client who just loves to respond to pressure. Whenever the pressure's on, that's when they're the best. What they hate is routine, like administrative job, anything routine they hate. So I asked them to start telling me success stories. So here's one of the success stories. In high school, he was a sophomore and went out for a wrestling team, and there was a senior in his weight division in the same school, and he really wanted to get a varsity letter, really needed to beat this senior. First time he ran on the wrestling mat in practice, the senior just ground him into the mat. I mean, just caused pain, just slid him all over the mat until he had burns. He said he worked him so hard he was nauseated after the first practice, thought about quitting. He said, now I'm really going to get this guy. So he had a strategy, and the strategy is he practiced with a guy who was 3 weight classes bigger than he was. And every time he went to practice, he practiced with the big guy because he figured, you know, if I can just hang in there with this big guy, maybe I can learn to beat a guy my same size. So he had a strategy. Well, they'd have these challenge matches every week, and so the person who wasn't starting could challenge the starter for their position whenever they wanted to. So they get into this match, and it is a dogfight, and it comes down to the final few seconds of the match, and the senior is ahead on points 4-2, so he's ahead by 2 points. And there's about 8 seconds left in the entire match. Well, in high school wrestling, one wrestler gets on in what's called the superior position, and the other wrestler is kind of on their knees below them, and that's how the engagement starts. And what the younger kid, my client, always used to do is just try to go for an escape, but that only give him 1 point. So he knew that he only had 8 seconds left, and that if he went for an escape, he'd still lose 4-3. So he did something he'd never done before, and that's that when the whistle blew, he went for a reversal to try to throw his opponent on his back. He'd never done it before. Well, the senior knew the tendency of my client, and as soon as the whistle blew, he let go of him, thinking he'd just sort of jump up, he'd get the 1 point, and the senior would retain his starting position. He never expected this young kid to do this reversal, and sure enough, he flew out, threw him on his back, got a near pin, and won the match. The senior quit the team, and he started for the rest of the year and got his varsity letter. Well, he told me that story and a series of stories, and I said, you know what? You just love the pressure, and you always want to do the unexpected and win the medal. That's what turns you on. So, what you need to do is look for ways in your work you can express that design. You love the pressure, you love coming from behind, you love doing the unexpected thing. And the more that you do that, the more joy you will have in your work. Once you begin to pay attention to those parts of your life that were really successful, that didn't seem like an effort, that seemed like fun, you begin to see your unique design. And when that design is applied to what your soul really desires, you will be onto a life that you really value and enjoy, a life of deep satisfaction where all your dreams will be fulfilled.